imagine you are the investor looking at the startup, you ask them for startup pitch deck. And then
Yes.
often I heard about it, you look at their like team, their product, their customers. I think that for the token network business model, there's some kind of things, yes, you can look at it, but there's a more, right? There's a more thing, especially if this project involves tokenomics aspect. So maybe you share a little bit, you as the person who already immersed in this domain and thinks a lot, research a lot, talk to the project a lot. Maybe you share audience about your experience, your kinds of recommendation.
Yeah. So I do have kind of a formula for that. It's not the same as the traders, which is why I don't classify myself as a trader. I'm not going to be looking at charts. I frankly don't even care about the price of something, because to me it's about quantity. So it's not so much, oh, I want to get this in at a good price, which I'm probably losing some money and could optimize. But it's the short-term versus long-term approach to me, because none of these investments I will be holding for anything less than like 5 years. So I don't see it like that. So I really don't care the entry point as much as the quantity of holdings. So typically what I do is I try to figure out how much of something do I want to hold. And then I try to look at essentially what would it cost to obtain that much right now. And so sometimes if I think that something's way undervalued, I might actually obtain more than I think I'll need in the long run. But that's really just about if there's a huge gap between where I think it'll go and where it is, that gives room for like taking profit events and stuff as it goes up. But my general practice and what I recommend to people is to simply read the white paper. I mean, it's amazing to me how many people don't read the white paper and invest in projects. It's like, look, this tells you a lot about the project. It tells you about the people involved. It tells you, you can infer a lot about what they talk about and as to where this stuff is going to go. And so typically what I do is I read the white paper and then I try to think through, if I was involved in this project, where would I take this?
Interesting.
So what are the possibilities or options for moving forward? And sometimes there's a lot of them. Sometimes it's like, oh, they could do this, they could do that, they could do this. This is huge. And I know, investing in it, look, they could do none of these and botch the whole thing.
Right.
So if it's early, I might say, look, I'm not going to go all in on something like that, but I will get involved because I say, oh, I do see potential here. I see where they could do something that is interesting to me. Now, one of the guys that you've actually had on, Michael Lucia, and I are actually planning on doing a bit of a podcast format to help with that, where we're going to review white papers for projects, giving people that maybe don't want to sit down and go through white papers the opportunity to just listen to someone talk about it for a while. And through that, we'll also get into kind of like where my thought process is as to where I think these things should go or what possibilities are open to that project at the time.
That's awesome. That's great. One thing I have recently found, and I get super interested, this is some project, people always criticize them as scam, right? Or rug pull. So people kind of know scam, but rug pull. Maybe you talk a little bit about rug pull, what the heck those projects are doing right now. And then is that real rug pull? And then what does that mean,
Yeah, so I think that my rug pull video on TikTok was like my second or third video or something. And I didn't want to get into it at the beginning, but I felt like I had to. And that's, so for those that don't know, a rug pull is this concept where people believe that a crypto project is created for no intention of basically going into the future or doing anything. And the developers hold a large portion of the tokens in reserve and just hype the project up to get a bunch of investors to come in, and then they pull the rug out from under them by liquidating all of their holdings and essentially just walking away.
Right, get the price up and then sell it, right?
Yeah. So I have a bit of a problem with people actually using the term rug pull in the crypto ecosystem at all. In fact, I don't think anyone should use it anymore. And the reason for that is relatively simple. And that's that I don't actually think it exists in the way that people are using it. So this concept of a fake project that people try to get investment into and then they pull the rug exists. That is something that happens all the time. But it doesn't happen where people think it happens. No legitimate project is doing a rug pull. None. It hasn't happened in the past. It doesn't, like, it literally just doesn't exist. What exists and happens all the time are really something, is really just the scam artists moving into new technology. But it's the same scam that's existed for hundreds of years. These are just advanced fee scams, basically. It's the I'm a Nigerian prince scam, basically. It's just the, hey, you need to send me some money and I'll get you a lot of money. And all they've recognized is that, oh, I can just take code that exists out there and fork it, create my own coin, rename it, and deploy it out there. Those aren't projects, guys. No, they're easy to spot. They don't. But the concept that there's these projects that are out there, these guys with a face, with a white paper, with actually trying to build something with new code that are doing rug pulls, it just doesn't exist. That's a figment of everyone's imagination. It doesn't actually occur. Now, there are events that occur in the crypto space that lead credence to people believing that rug pulls exist, but they're not rug pulls. So early on in a crypto's lifespan, the crypto is small. They have small market caps. They have a very small number of holders. The cost of their token is typically very cheap. So the holders actually hold large quantities of the token. So you don't get a lot of spread. So because of that, new investors aren't very protected, because you get a lot of whales, basically, that own a large portion or percentage of the token. And as the price increases, you will find that you will hit target goals for those whales where they will trigger off taking profit events, where they sell a large portion of their holdings. People will all the time attribute those to a rug pull. Those aren't a rug pull. It's a normal occurrence as these networks solidify. And as those whales do that, you actually diversify the holding pool. So you get a larger pool of holders that are holding smaller quantities at a higher cost per token, which actually causes the network to stabilize. So it's still not rug pulls, and it's a natural evolution of the fact that these networks have been structured specifically in a way that rewards early adopters. And that's really what it's about. It's about rewarding early adopters. And so I think that there's a lot of fear that occurs because of these events and stuff, and people just not understanding what's naturally happening, even on legitimate projects. These
So that's a great point. That means most of people do not understand. I mean, even business today, right? Like, has a, I mean, we talk about innovative project, but we also have people who are doing, like, launching business. They all have risk associated with that. So that means majority, especially for innovation, you have this failure. And then
that's really why I got involved. Was because I was appalled by especially the Twitterverse, where it was just everything was a scam. You could think of any crypto project that you or I were aware of from 2017 that didn't make it. If you search for their tag on Twitter, you will find people today calling them a rug pull. And by the way, if you were one of these people who's all upset that you lost money back in 2017 because you have tokens that aren't listed on exchanges, that aren't worth anything, for projects that you think have died off, please, for the love of God, don't sell your tokens. Don't get rid of them, or don't lose your keys. because about half of those projects, yes, did die off, but the other half, even the ones that are quiet, are still working. And those are actually the ones that the projects that I'm the most interested in. They're not listed on exchanges, but they're still operating. What does that tell you? It means that they're actually integrating their technology with businesses in a functional manner today. Those are the projects that when they finally hit exchanges, their coins are just naturally going to have a utility value associated with them right out of the box, which none of the utility tokens that are available on exchanges today can say that.
Right. That's
when so the guys that are in the trading space that are all anticipating this utility revolution occurring, that's when the utility revolution is going to occur. It's not going to be when StormX has utility. It's not going to be when VeChain has utility. It's going to be when these utility tokens that you don't even know about, that are all off exchange, that are working with companies, all of a sudden come out in the open.
That's awesome.
That's when the utility kind of boom is going to take place.
Right. That's I think that really comes to the core of the project, right? Like, what's the problem you're trying to solve here, and then how do you anticipate to grow your project? Eventually reach the business, and then actually has that network effect.
And there was a point in there that I think is very critical, and it's that you said that people can choose, and that's really what this is all going to be about in the long run. It's the reason why I don't discount some projects that other people do, where they'll just say like, "Oh, it's a joke," like Dogecoin, for example. People will be like, "Oh my God, it's a joke," or SafeMoon, or even like Ass Token or whatever. One of these things. It's just kind of out there. Or writing a meme. If they have a team and they're actually working on new things, writing a meme's not actually a bad thing, because a lot of these networks are going to be about adoption. So it's about personal choice. It's about what the people actually choose to join. It's one of the reasons why I think this is going to cause a political revolution. There's all sorts of people that I think aren't seeing crypto as having a political
tool,
as being a political tool, but I think it really is going to become one, because what you're going to get is networks that operate in specific fashions that people have the choice to join, like we mentioned before, where it's like you can structure these things so they operate like a state, and all the things that people wish a state would do for them or give to them, or services that like people think that should be provided by the state, like universal healthcare or free education, or like all these things, can literally be baked into the network so that it is provided for members of that network. So people will be able to join the networks that they feel are going to give them the most value. And the networks can be structured to provide that value back to its members. So you will literally see crypto networks that are going to be more analogous to state governments than they are to a currency.
Right.
And that's what I find fascinating. That's the future that I anticipate. That's the one that excites me. I don't give a damn about using crypto to buy something online. Of course that's going to happen. Of course you're going to be able to use Doge on Amazon. Like, come on, you're going to be able to use SafeMoon on Amazon. You're going to be able to use any of these on Amazon, because there'll be bridge networks that make it so that it doesn't actually matter. So as soon as Amazon accepts Bitcoin or one of these, that actually means that they'll accept all of them. So thinking of these things as like, oh, when is this going to be accepted? It's like, guys, you're missing the point. That's small potatoes compared to what's actually coming.